So welcome to our April 9th session of our gentle chair yoga class. As I was just saying, everything that we are going to do today can be done seated, but there are also options to stand. So that's going to be up to you, and you can make different choices throughout the class. So we're going to start seated. I'm just going to move back to my chair in a moment here. Let me make sure that my picture is big so you can see me. And as a reminder, if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask them. So let's just take a moment to find ourselves seated. If you're sitting on the floor, that's totally fine. Make yourself comfortable in whatever way you like. You could have your legs crossed, or you could be leaning against a wall. Let me angle this so the body's visible. If you're seated in the chair, let's take a moment just to really make yourself feel comfortable here. In a moment or two, we might want to not be too comfortable leaning against the chair. We'll sit upright, but for now, if you want to lean against the back of the chair and really be comfortable, we can do that. If you'd like to close your eyes as we're getting started, feel free. We're just going to take a moment to tune in to see how we're feeling today. Let's start by just noticing whatever sensations we can feel with our hands. So if you've got your hands resting on your legs, you can sort of feel that, feel the texture of your clothing. And then see if you can notice the temperature of the air around you today. So if you're inside, you might feel air conditioning. If you're outside, it might be a little warmer. And take a moment or two and just check in and see if you can come into a little bit of a sense of presence, experiencing whatever there is to experience in your body today. If you do have your eyes open, you might take a moment to look around your space where you are and imagine that you're seeing it with new eyes. See if you can notice the colors, any light, and maybe see if there's anything pleasant that you can let your eyes rest on here for a moment or two, just orienting ourselves to our experience in our bodies. And then let's see if we can notice, where do we feel supported? Can you feel your seat? Can you feel your hips resting on the chair or the floor? Can you feel your back resting against the back of the chair? And then for a moment or two, just sense that we're giving ourselves this gift of some time. So for the next 40 minutes or so, this is a time that's set aside just for you to take care of yourself. We're so used to rushing around and rushing from one thing to another that it can really feel like a luxury sometimes, or it can almost feel wrong to just pause and do a little bit less. Sometimes when we pause like this, we might even feel a little bit bored, or we don't know what to do with ourselves. And that's why we're practicing these skills of just noticing with our eyes, noticing with our senses. Let's take another breath or two here. And now I want to invite you to start to notice, what's it feel like to breathe in your body today? Can you notice the breath as it comes and goes? Now, if noticing the breath makes you feel anxious today, then I don't want you to do that. Then instead, you're just going to stay with the sensations of the body. But if it is okay for you to notice what it's like to breathe, then see if you can just notice without any kind of judgment the breath as it comes in and out. And then finally, you might ask yourself, are there any messages that my body is sending me today? Do I feel a little bit tired? Do I feel energized? Are there any aches or pains that I can notice? What's my mood feel like today? Am I happy? Am I sad? Most likely somewhere in between. Just see if you can make yourself aware of what you're working with in your body, with your heart and your mind today. Now, if you like, before we start the more physical part of our practice, you might take one more moment here and just set an intention for your yoga practice. An intention might be something physical, like today I want to really move, or it might be something mental, I want to practice being present. I want to practice being mindful. Or it could be something else. If you do have an intention that comes up for you, that's great. And if you're not sure, then maybe today your intention could be just to be curious about what the next half hour, next 40 minutes of your life is going to be like. Just being a little bit open. If it resonates with you to bring the hands to the heart here, you can do that and sort of set your intention that way. If that's not something that resonates with you, then there's no need to do it. Some people also use this as a time to connect with the inner spirit or with their higher power. And this is really your practice, so you can do it however you like. Let's take one breath in and out together here. And then if your eyes have been closed, we can open them and we'll start to bring a little more movement into our practice. So let's start today with our shoulders. Now, we've worked with the shoulders many times before, but today we're going to try one shoulder at a time. So let's start with your right shoulder. We'll lift the right shoulder up, pull it back, and drop it down. So it's just the right shoulder moving in a circle. You might notice that it feels like your left shoulder wants to chime in, and it's okay if it does, but we're practicing working with just one body part at a time. Let's go one more time, up and back and down with this shoulder, and then pause, and we'll go the other way. Shoulder comes up, forward and down. Pull the shoulder blade in, move it up, pull it forward and pull it down. It's almost like you're being a little flirtatious with that shoulder. Let's do one more circle on the right side and then let it relax and pause for a moment and see if you can notice maybe you have a better connection, a better mental connection now to the right shoulder than you do to the left, a little more awareness. So let's even that out. When you're ready, left shoulder comes up, pulls back and comes down. So we're just moving that left shoulder now in a circle. The shoulder blade itself is moving around on your back. We'll go one more time this direction, keeping it really mild to start. And then pause and reverse direction. Shoulder blade comes up, forward, down. So you can just think about shrugging the shoulder here and notice that it can move on its own. And you might start to feel a little sensation too through the neck or through the back. Just notice whatever's there. And then we'll let both shoulders rest for a moment. If you want to close your eyes and just feel for a moment, you can do that. We're not in any hurry. We're not in any rush. What we're doing is really mindful and slow, and that's on purpose. We want to really be aware of what we're experiencing. Next, we're moving on to the hands, and we're going to do something we haven't done, at least we haven't done together as a group before. So I don't know if you can see too well, but I'm going to start with my right hand, and all I'm going to do is have my hand resting on my leg, or you can have it on the table or any surface. Now I'm going to ask you to pick up your pointer finger. So let me come in to show this. I'm going to pick up my pointer finger, and I'm going to make some small circles. All the other fingers are staying down. So I'm just circling this finger and then I'm going the other way. If you're working with arthritis, that's really common. Do whatever movement feels okay for you. And then we'll set that finger down and pick up the middle finger and start to make some circles. Now, as we move through the fingers, you'll find some of them do better than others. Let's try the other direction. Good, set that down and we'll move to the ring finger. Now this one's just a mess. This one's hard. See if you can get that ring finger to do anything at all. And that's like a big victory if you can. Good, try going the other way. Oof. Don't worry, the pinky finger will feel better. Good, let's get to that pinky. And then you can feel a little better. Move the pinky finger in a circle and go the other way. Good. All right. And then we'll take the whole hand and just shake it out a little bit. It's really important to keep that articulation going, that movement going through our fingers, but we tend to forget about them in our yoga practice. So let's move to the pointer finger on the right hand or on your other hand now. It doesn't matter what you're doing. So if this is your dominant hand, you may find it moves a little better. Let's go the other direction with that pointer finger. And set that down, ring or middle finger rather. And go the other way. Again, I know you won't have much range of motion for some of these. That's so normal. Let's try that ring finger and just get it to do whatever it can do. Mine's barely wiggling. And it's okay if you have to lift the other fingers to let it move, that's okay too. Good, and then pinky. So even if we do have arthritis, we want to keep the movement going, right? We just want to not irritate ourselves too much as we do it. Good. So that's the left and the right hand done. And now we'll take both hands and we're just going to start to gently open and close them. As you open and close your hands, see if you can spread the fingers really wide. And you're only squeezing as much as you can without pain. If it feels good to squeeze tight, you can do that. And let's make sure we're keeping the thumb on the outside of that fist. Now you can do this for as long as you like. If you need to take a rest, please feel free. You might find you're already getting a little bit tired. This is one of those things that looks a lot easier than it is. Let's do 5 more times. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then give that a little bit of a shake. Okay. Now we'll stretch an arm out in front. Let's stretch your left arm out in front, palm up like you're extending it towards somebody. Take your other hand, your right hand, and gently draw all of the fingers down for a little stretch. So from the side, it would look like this. It doesn't matter how far you go here. You're just gently stretching. You'll feel a stretch perhaps through the fingers, through the palm, maybe through the forearm. You can explore, try bending the elbow or keeping it straight and see what happens, see how it feels. And if you're able to stretch the thumb too, it's a little hard for me to grab that. You can give that a try. Now, the last thing before we move on here, check your shoulders. Are they lifting to your ears? And can you relax them away from the ears? There you go. So you're just working the arm. Nice job. All right, we'll shake that one out. And then we're moving on to the other hand. Maybe it's your right hand. Doesn't matter which one you're doing. Extend the arm in front of you, palm facing outward, and then stretch the fingers back gently. Maybe you can get the thumb. As I mentioned, that's tricky for me. Check in with your shoulders. See if you can invite the shoulders to drop away from the ears here. We'll take one more breath. And then let that go. And then let's just make some gentle circles with the wrists here. And we'll go one direction a few times. And now go the other direction. And while you're circling, I'm letting somebody into the room. There we go. Okay. Before we do any bigger movement, we're going to work with the neck. So drop your right ear to your right shoulder. And remember how we talked about at the beginning of class, not moving into pain. So important here especially. So just really gently dropping ear towards shoulder and then chin toward the chest. Ear to the other shoulder. And now tilt your chin up toward the sky. And if you want to add a little more here, you can take your hands and bring them right here to the collarbones and gently pull down. So you're getting a little bit of a gentle stretch across the front of the throat. I'll show you from the side. It just looks like this. Good. And then back to center. Let the hands rest and look over one shoulder. And then over the other shoulder. Really good. All right, now we'll get into some bigger movement. If you're just joining us, you can be seated in a chair or on the floor. If you are seated on the floor, you might want to cross your legs the other way if you've had your legs crossed. If you're seated in a chair, you can stay right where you are. Let's take our right hand down and hold on to the edge of the chair. And if you don't have an edge of the chair to hold on to, you just hold on to your leg, or you can even put your hand right under the leg. So I'm going to grab the edge of my chair. Now the left arm reaches up and stretches over the ear. So I'm just looking for a little bit of a stretch on the side of my body. And then we'll come up and switch. Hand comes down, other arm reaches up and over. Perfect. Let's go back and forth a few times here. Hand down, Take it over. And as you do this, check in. Can you let your ear drop toward the shoulder and let that shoulder relax a little bit? And then we'll come up and we're going over to the other side. Nice, everybody. Good. Now we'll come up from here. Let's take both arms overhead. Do a twist to your right. As you twist to the right, you'll have to work with your chair. So you may find that you need to scoot forward a little bit. Then one hand might come to the back of the chair and the other might come to the side of the chair. Or as I'm showing here, you can just rest one hand on the leg. Wherever that back hand is, see if you can find a little bit of a sense of lifting up away from the chair. So you're lifting the ribs, and then we're just gently turning and looking over the shoulder, as long as there's no pain there. Sometimes people will say to me, am I doing this right? And I promise you, you are. There's no wrong way to do this. I could show you, I don't know, 300 different ways to do a twist in the chair, and they would all be okay. What we're looking for here is, does this feel good to me today? So our twists should be pain-free if possible. And then as you come back around, we'll just rest for a moment before the second side. Not because I think you're tired, maybe you are, but just so that you can feel what it's like. You were twisting and now you're not twisting. And we just want to notice what that feels like. Take a breath and see if the two sides of your body, the two sides of your back might feel a little bit different. And then we'll come to the second side from here. Stretch the arms up overhead first if you like, and then a little twist, turn your torso to the other side, and then you let your hands go wherever there's room for them to go. If you have room to hold on to the back of the chair, that's great. Sometimes that little bit of leverage is nice. And if not, then you're just tucking the hand against the back or resting the elbow, whatever you can do here. See if you can feel that your spine is lifting tall, just like a sunflower rises up toward the sky, your spine rises up. And then there's this little sense of turning around that. So the rib cage turns, the shoulders turn, and then maybe the head turns a little bit too, as long as there's no strain in the neck. We'll come back around through to center. And then again, before the second side, take a moment, let the shoulders drop away from the ears. If you want to close the eyes for a moment and just feel the work we've done so far in the body, you can do that. Now we'll move into some half salutations. So these can be done seated or standing. We did these last month together. I'll show them seated. If you're standing, it's the same exact thing, except your legs are straight. So let's start. Arms come overhead, just as high as you feel comfortable with. And then we bow forward over the legs. Now, if you were standing, you would just be bowing toward the floor with straightish legs. Bring your fingers to your shins and lift your chest so you feel the spine elongating. If you were standing, it would look like this. And then we fold forward again over the legs. Let the head soften. If you can, let the head drop toward the floor. And then we come back up to stand. Use your legs, use your core, use whatever can help you. The arms reach again. Really nice, everybody. And then hands through the heart. So let's do that 2 more times. Arms stretch overhead. And we'll bow forward, whether you're seated or standing. Good work either way. Bring your fingers to your shins, lift your chest. Think about making your spine long here. And then slide the hands down, let the head drop toward the floor if it feels okay. As you come up, reach the arms. And now if it feels good, you might even look up. And then we bring the hands back to the space of the heart. Awesome. Last one of these, half sun salutations, arms stretching wide. And then the body bowing forward. If you need more room for your torso, just take your legs a little wider. It's no problem. Lift your chest, feel that length through the spine, maybe a little broadness in the chest. And then we'll fold again here. All the way back up to stand, stretch the arms, reaching tall. And hands through the heart. Good. Pause for a moment here. If you set an intention at the beginning of the practice, remember that now. See if you can feel that. One breath in and out. Nice. Now we're moving on to Warrior Two. So I'll show you the seated version first. Let's start with our right leg bent. So I'm being a mirror for you today, but you can really do either leg. So if you're in the chair, you're stepping your right foot a little bit wide and sort of pointing your toes out to the right. And then the left leg tries to straighten as much as it comfortably can. I had to scoot to the edge of my seat to make that happen in my body. It's okay if the legs are kind of bent. It doesn't need to be perfect, right? We've got an idea kind of like this. If you were standing, it would look the same, but your hips aren't resting on the chair. You could have your leg more or less bent. That part really doesn't matter. That's personal to you. Now we'll reach the arms wide. So in our Warrior Two, I want you to imagine now that there are, remember the movie Bambi and all those little forest creatures that were floating around? Imagine now that you have two little Disney birds holding up your arms. So they're holding up the wrists here. Your shoulders don't need to do the work. You've got little Disney birds holding up the arms. See if you can let the shoulders soften a little bit away from the ears. Yeah, there you go. And then traditionally, we look out over the right fingertips in this pose. So you're welcome to do that too if you like. Now in our Warrior Two, you could stay right here, or we're going to add just a little bit of work. So the work looks like this. We bring the elbows in against the body. So my elbows are squeezing into my ribs. I'm making two fists. So I've put my hands into fists. I keep the elbows where they are as I bring my hands together. And now I'm trying to keep my elbows where they are as I take my hands apart. So elbows are glued against the ribs as the hands come in and as the hands go out. We're strengthening the muscles on the backs of the shoulder blades, our external rotators. So this is a good rotator cuff exercise. Let's do this 3 more times. Elbows glued against the ribs as we take the hands wide and come back in. Imagine, if you like, that you've got a rubber band, or if you've ever gone to physical therapy, you know those therapy bands. Imagine that you've got one of those between the hands, so there's a little bit of tension. We'll take one more breath here and then bring it back to center. Let the arms relax, and then let's let the legs relax too. If you're standing, you can straighten both legs and kind of shake out the legs. If you're in a chair, you can just move the legs around until you feel good. So it doesn't look like much, but that exercise is a lot of work. I really feel that in my shoulders in a good way. Let's try the second side of our Warrior Two. Your other foot now steps out to the side and the other leg goes a little straighter. Again, it doesn't mean to be perfect. We don't all need to be like little cookie cutters of each other. We're just trying to get this idea. One leg is straight and the other leg is bent. And if you're standing, then you decide, how much do I want to bend that knee? From here, let the arms relax for 1 second and we'll come into it a little bit differently. I want you to imagine now, use your imagination, those two little birds fly in, pick up your hands and float the arms out to the sides. And see if that makes a difference. Sometimes we have so much habitual tension in our shoulders that we don't even know that we're sort of scrunching the shoulders up. So see if you can feel that ease around the neck, or maybe a little more ease. And now let's liven up the fingers a little bit. Spread the fingers wide. And if you'd like to look over your front fingertips, the left hand this time, as you reach through the arms, see if you can just feel your whole body in this position. We'll do a little bit of work here again in a moment, but for now, we're just holding our Warrior Two, whether you're in a chair or standing. Let's take one last breath here. And then elbows to the sides, make your two fists. We're going to do 5 times on this side too. Elbows stay at the ribs as hands come together. And now pull the hands apart. 4 more times, slowly in and slowly out. So imagine that you're moving underwater. You're moving through some imaginary resistance. Make it a little hard for yourself. If it's not hard enough, it may already be enough of a challenge. 2 more. I'm doing my best to keep my elbows against the sides, but my body is really struggling with that. Good. And then let that go. If you are standing, walk the feet in. If you're seated, walk the legs in. And let's just shake the shoulders out a little bit. Really nice work with that. Let's try Warrior One now. So as you know, or as you may remember, Warrior One is a little bit different. Instead of having the legs spread quite so wide, we're turning the body a little bit more to the side. So if we're standing, it looks more like this. And if you're seated, it looks a little bit more like this leg is still bent, toes pointed that way. And the other leg might be a little bent, but now I'm letting my torso, I'm letting my body turn to the right. So I'm not so broad to the front, I'm turned to the side a little bit. Depending on you and your body, you may be able to get a little stretch through the front of the hip. So you can explore that. So that would be in the front of your left hip if you have your right leg forward. Now, if it feels good in your body today, you can explore reaching your arms overhead. And think about finding a little bit of a lift in the chest here. If there's any discomfort in your body with this, any pain in your back, just make it milder until it feels right for you. So that's your job. You get to explore this. See if you have access to feeling in your legs, see if you can feel your legs. See if you can feel into your arms. See if you can feel that lift through the chest. We're just going to take one more breath on this side. And then float the arms down if they lifted. Turn back to center. And then right away, we'll come to the other side. Turn your torso, turn the legs. And when you feel ready on this side, ask yourself, do I want to reach my arms up or are they a little tired? If the arms are tired on this side, you could do hands at prayer or hands at the hips. Or if it does feel good to reach the arms, then go for it. Remember, we're all going to be doing different things here, so it's up to you. Warrior One has this sort of feeling, or it can have a sort of feeling of a liftedness, almost a buoyancy, like we're lifting the ribs up away from the hips. So we're strong and grounded in the legs, but then there's a feeling of lifting the upper half of the body upward. Let's do one more breath here. And then arms can float down. We'll turn it back to center. Really nice. Let the arms relax for a moment. We're going to do Warrior one more time on each side, but we're going to add a little bit of an arm complication. And I want to show you the arms before we move into the pose. So we'll do the arms and then we'll turn the body. So it looks like this. Let's start by reaching both arms straight forward, and then we'll bend both elbows. Good. Now take your right arm and walk it into the crook of your left elbow. So you kind of walk it across, and then turn your left hand so it faces you. Now with your left arm, you're pulling in and pulling across. So you're stretching the back of the shoulder. Let your right hand really get relaxed and soft. So this is one way that we might do this pose. If you have a little more mobility in your shoulders today, you can explore bringing your hands together. We call this eagle arms. So I've just grabbed onto my thumb or my hand. If that's there for you, you can do it. Otherwise, you're letting the arm just stretch in this way. So it's good either way. Now take that and turn it to the side. Yes, really nice, everyone. So we've got our Warrior One legs. See if you can find that same lift in the chest, even as you're stretching through the back of the shoulders. Now, lift up through the front of the heart a little bit and see if you can feel a little bit of that lift at the same time that you're stretching into the shoulders. If there's any pain or discomfort, change it until it feels right for you. We'll take one last breath here. And then back to center. Untangle your arms. You can shrug out a little bit or move the legs around, whatever the body's needing here. I've got a little heat going in my shoulders now. And then we'll do the opposite with the arms. So bring your elbows in, walk the left arm across, pull it in with the right elbow. So whatever we're doing, we're getting a big stretch through the back of that shoulder. And then if it works in your body to grab onto the opposite hand, that's great. And if it doesn't, it's no big deal. Whatever you've got, start to turn your body, turn your torso into your warrior one shape. Good. Find that lift. And now that you're really familiar with this, ground down into the feet. Feel that connection with the floor, maybe with the chair, and then find that lift through the elbow and the stretch through the back of the chest. Really nice. Last big breath here. And then let's release the hands. Come back around to center and step the feet wide. Whether you're standing or seated, we'll step the feet wide for a moment and just connect again to the body. Feel the shoulders falling away from the ears. Feel that heat in the arms that may have been generated. We'll take a complete breath in and out here. I'm going to scoot back, actually, scoot this way just a little so you can see my feet. The next thing we're doing is going to be a variation on goddess pose. Now for goddess pose, if you're standing, you put as much of a bend in your knees as you want. It's almost like a ballet move. So I don't care if your legs are pretty straight or pretty bent, it doesn't matter. And it's the same deal if you're seated. We've got the legs comfortably wide. Now we're doing a little work with the calves. So we'll begin with the right foot. Lift up onto the ball of your right foot and set it down. Lift up onto the ball of your left foot and set it down. I don't have to tell you if you're standing, this is a lot harder if you're trying to balance and do this at the same time. Keep going. But that doesn't mean that there's not really good work to do here. So we're asking our foot to stretch. We're asking our calf muscles to contract. Let's do a few more here, right and left. And the next time that your left heel comes up, that's the last time for now. We're going to set that back down. And walk the legs in just a little bit. Maybe we shake them out a little bit or rock the legs in and out. We're coming to our wide-legged forward fold. If you're standing, the legs could be straight or bent. We lean forward and bring the fingertips toward the floor. If you're in a chair, legs step wide and you drape yourself downward. Now you might rest your elbows on your thighs. You may be able to go a little further than that today. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. And then depending on how your back feels here, you might let yourself hang and kind of just drape forward. It might feel good to let your body sway a little bit side to side. Imagine that your arms are like an elephant trunk hanging and swaying. And if you're standing, it sometimes feels good to me to bend one knee and then another so that I get a stretch in different parts of the legs. We'll just take another couple of breaths here. Okay. Take your time to come all the way back up. You can step the feet in for a moment and just pause and breathe. We've got one more little pose to do standing. This is camel pose. So you can also do this with your knees on the floor, which is a traditional way. Some people's knees do not love being on the floor, so I like to teach this either standing or seated as we are. I'll show you from the side. So if you're standing, it's all the same stuff. It's just that you're standing. Slide your hands around to the waist or maybe even to the lower back here. Squeeze your shoulder blades together and drop them down. So see if you can feel a big stretch across the front of the chest first. Now there's a little bit of engagement through the belly. So I want you to imagine that you're just pulling your belly in a little bit, like somebody were about to tickle you. I hope that's not going to happen to you, but imagine someone's about to tickle you and you pull in. Then lift up a little bit through the chest and imagine that you're arcing backward over a big ball, or maybe you're going backward over a high jump. So you're only going as far back as feels okay to you and your body. If you're standing, it's the same thing. You just don't have your hips resting on anything. With your neck, you can do whatever feels best for you. So if dropping your head back doesn't feel good, and it won't for many people, then just let the chin be a little more neutral, or even drop it toward the chest. Let's come back through to center now and pause for a moment and rest. Take 2 complete breaths. See if you can notice what that felt like in your body. Sometimes back bends can be really stimulating. You might feel like your pulse is a little faster. Just notice whatever's there. And then we'll do a few rounds of cat and cow. So if you're seated with me, it looks like this. Belly comes forward, and then we round the spine. I'll show the other version in a moment. Belly comes forward, and we round the spine. Now, if you're working on a yoga mat today, it's very similar. You come down to your hands and knees, and we do the same movement right here. So if that feels good to you to work on the floor, you can do that, or you can do the same work seated. And then I want to invite you to see if there's any movement that your body's kind of looking for here. Would it feel good to move your body in a big circle? Would it feel good to find a little twist side to side? So this is your opportunity to really pay attention to anything your body's saying. Kind of do a little free form movement. And if you're not sure, you can stay with cat and cow until you get a message that says to do something different. Before we rest, before our last pose, I'm going to show you a seated child's pose. If you're on the floor and you know child's pose, you can do that. If you're seated, it looks like this. We drop the elbows. You can even hold the elbows, and you curl into yourself as tightly as you comfortably can. Now your belly and your chest are going to maybe make contact with your legs, so you can play with taking the legs wider if you need to, whatever you need to do to make your body feel comfortable. We're just curling inward here for a moment. If you were on the floor, that would look like this maybe. And it's okay if your hips don't touch your heels, they don't need to. We're just curling inward in whatever way we can. Sometimes this stretch can feel really good on the back, especially after doing a back bend. So we'll just take one more breath where you are. And then come back to a more neutral position. All right. Those of you who are on the floor, you can come to a seat, or you could lie down for this next part. If you're in a chair with me, you can lean back and make yourself comfortable against the back of the chair again. The really hard work is done. So for the last moments today, we're going to do just a little bit of breathing together, as we often do. You're welcome to follow along, or if you want to, you can do your own thing. That's okay too. And if you want to turn off your camera, of course, that's fine. So I want to start by inviting you to take your hands and rest them here on your low belly. And nobody can see you unless you've got someone in the room with you. So no one can see you. You get to decide where the hands go. It doesn't always feel good to touch your own belly, so it's okay if you don't want to. But if you're able to, let's give it a try. Now here's the trick. As you breathe in, I want you to see if you can feel your belly lifting into the hands. And as you breathe out, feel the belly dropping down a little bit more. We'll do a few rounds like this, breathing into the belly and breathing out. As you do 2 or 3 more rounds, See if you can feel as though your chest and your neck and your shoulders aren't moving at all. And that all of the breath is down here really low. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Good. Now, let's move the hands to the sides of the waist. So I'm sliding my hands around to the sides of the waist, and you can hold the hands however you want. I'm going to turn my thumbs down and my fingers pointing back. Now I want you to imagine that you're breathing wide. So as you breathe in, see if you can feel the belly expanding into the hands on the sides. And as you breathe out, feel it coming back in. That's it. Breathing wide into the hands. And back out. You may find that this is a little harder to feel than it was in the front of the stomach. Let's try 2 more rounds here. Breathing into the sides. And into the back. Good. Now, let's slide the hands around to the lower back, and I'll show you where we want to be, sort of in this area, somewhere between the bottom ribs and the back of the hips. And this is the hardest part to feel. See how you notice as you breathe in. Can you feel yourself breathing into the hands here? As you breathe out, can you feel the back of the body drawing back in? Breathing in, expanding into the lower back and the hands. Breathing out, we're drawing back in. Let's try 2 more times there. As I mentioned, this can be the trickiest part, so it's okay if you're having a harder time connecting to it. I don't want you to feel like you're failing if you can't feel this. This is really subtle. We're just sort of looking what we can notice. 1 more breath here. Good. And then let's let the hands rest wherever you like. And we're going to just take a few rounds of breath, breathing into all of those places simultaneously. So now as you breathe in, you're expanding into the belly and the sides and the lower back. And as you breathe out, you're feeling or imagining it all draws back in. Imagine that you had a rubber tube around your low belly. As you breathe in, you're inflating it. And as you breathe out, it draws back in. Try that 3 more times on your own. And if it feels right to close your eyes, you can do that. Good. 1 more breath here. Now we'll take 1 last moment together. You're welcome to close your eyes if you like. Let go of that breathing technique and see if you can just notice, how are you now at the end of your yoga practice? Feel the body breathing. Notice the sensations. Notice the mood. Notice what your experience feels like. And then when you're ready, if your eyes are closed, you can blink them open. And if there's any little movements your body's looking for, you can do that. And we'll bring our practice to a close right here. So take 1 more moment if you like to maybe connect with your intention or set a new one for the rest of the day. You can close the eyes for that part if you like. and then we'll be ready to move on.